Hello, everyone. We are doing another interview today. Let me just invite them in. Okay. I have my phone on a stand and okay, there she is. Hopefully both of our internets cooperate. Hello, darling.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm well.
I know I just was doing all the situating with the phone and stands and all the
Tricky.
things. It's
It's
tricky.
tricky.
Look at that gorgeous wood ceiling in your beautiful office. I love
Yes, it feels
it.
good to be in this space. It's been a long time coming. So.
Yeah. I know. I remember when you were doing the construction on the office space. Was it last fall, last
Mhm.
summer? Is it
I actually
longer?
think it was during permission to be or
Okay, so last summer. Yeah, that sounds
yeah.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember taking calls upstairs and like hearing all of the noises and
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And now you have your own space. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of permission to be, that's why we're here, because you went through permission to be. But before we go too far into that, I would love for you to introduce yourself and what you do.
Sure. My name is Ade Hoffman. I am the founder and director of Nature Play All Day, which is a multifaceted organization. We are
Yes.
an we are an off-grid, currently state licensed preschool, nature and play based.
Mhm.
Also, I offer mentorship programs for other directors who want to bring, and teachers and caregivers who want to bring more nature based practices into their own practice, and just help them feel not alone.
Mm.
As much momentum as this movement of nature based education is kind of sweeping, but we still feel like we're moving upstream a little bit.
Yeah.
So it's nice to have somebody in your back pocket, literally, and figuratively, to kind of keep you accountable and keep you feeling positive and supported.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I love that. It's been so fun to watch you along the way, especially just in this last year and like your evolution and transformation, all the things. And we're going to get to that. I'm getting ahead of myself. And I know you listened into my live with Laura the other day, Little Stories That Stick. And you heard me ask her, but I'm going to do the same thing to you. Tell us, let's have a little fun to start. Tell us something that we should know about you that we may not expect. Because I learned some wild things about Laura and her music.
Ah, I feel like that's really tricky. I don't know, you might already know this about me, but I went to colonial camp in middle school, and perhaps that is where my deep love of quality butter derived. Um, I did learn to churn my own butter,
Yes.
and make my own medicine and bandages from nature. And saying it out loud now, it all makes
All makes
perfect sense that this is
so
where
much
I am.
sense. You know what else makes
Yeah.
sense? I went to colonial camp in middle school too.
Who knew there were multiple colonial camps?
Yeah. Museum. Ours was called Museum Village in New York, and it was all because like so much happened right there outside of New York City for our
Yeah.
country in terms of all of it. And yeah. So one more thing that we are like the same in between overalls and nature and now colonial camp and
Oh,
art
I love it.
school, all the things. We always joke about
Hmm.
being twins. It's wild. It's
Yeah.
wild. I
And
love
I
that.
went to camp with my cousin who I feel like you guys are like just carbon
Mm.
copies of each other. So I
Mm.
love that.
Love that too. I'm gonna need to meet your cousin someday, I think. I love
Yeah.
it. Okay, so fun fact is you went to colonial camp in middle school, and that's maybe where your love for nature and simplicity started. Okay,
Perhaps.
perhaps just one more piece of the puzzle. So tell us a little bit about how you and I got started, because we kind of have this
Mhm.
long journey to arriving to work together in this current capacity?
Yeah, I feel like it's been an interesting road. You and I had a shared coach, a business coach,
Yeah.
back in 2017 or no, 2018 or
Yeah.
19.
I wasn't even working
Um,
with her at that point. I think I met you in a free workshop she was offering.
yeah, and yeah, we crossed paths there, and she
Yep.
saw our similarities, and we're
Yep.
like, you guys have to connect. And so
Yep.
we're like, yeah, sure. So we followed each other on Instagram, and then I
Yeah.
just kind of like, you know, as most people do, watched from afar
Mhm.
for a long time,
Same. Yep.
and then like just kind of knew that we had a lot in common, and
Mhm.
then we connected 2 summers ago,
Yeah.
maybe,
Yeah.
about co-hosting a retreat.
Yes.
And that's really when we started like talking.
Collaborative.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I hadn't even met you in person or shared physical space with you until the day of
That we
the like the day
we were
before the retreat.
co-hosting a retreat together.
Yeah.
That's wild.
And I remember like having you pulling up and being like, "Oh my gosh, I actually don't even know her." uh, it was totally fun.
Really funny.
Yeah, and so we connected in that way, collaborating on a project, rooted in nature and play. Two
Mhm.
things I think we both really feel passionately about having, access to and
Yes.
incorporated into our daily rhythms. And then, I watched you facilitate a workshop at the
Mm.
retreat and was like, okay. And I saw so many other women there start to really open up parts of themselves that they were surprised were either locked away. And I was
Mhm.
like, well, maybe I want a little bit of that. I don't know. Um, so I kind of just thought about it for a while, and I think I took advantage of some of your free offerings and some calls that you did, or
Mhm.
workshops. Um, and then when you launched Permission to Be, I kind of had that voice in my head or my heart, my gut that was like, just do this. And
Yeah.
I just remember very clearly, and maybe I'm getting ahead, but like very clearly thinking there is a version of you that you have to know. And I felt very, very strongly that, you know, jumping into this group was going to be the first step towards like meeting that
Mhm.
version of myself. And it made no sense to me at the time. But now seeing how like the last year has unfolded, it makes
Yeah.
perfect sense.
Sure. Yeah, I think I mean, two things that come to mind there for me. It's really interesting that one, like, you never know who's being touched by like your work, your wisdom, your magic, your lessons in
Hmm.
the world. Like, we co-hosted a retreat together. And when we did that, like, there was always a part of me that was like, man, I would love to support AIDS magic in the world because like what you do is so important. And then when we co-hosted that retreat, I was like, okay, colleague box, like, this, right? And but you never know, and it was such a beautiful lesson for me of how important like being authentic and who we are is really what it's all about, right? Like there's all these strategies out there, there's all these things out there, and really what it all boils down to, and easier said than done, is that when we show up as ourselves, like the right people are
Hmm.
drawn to that to work with us. And I had another thing and I lost it already. Oh, the you speaking to knowing that there was this other version of yourself that you wanted to meet, and that Permission to Be could be the catalyst for it. I think it's interesting to hear that because I'm having so many conversations right now with people considering this program, and I think it's really hard for people like us who are high achievers, go-getters, want to have this big impact on the world, have a vision and goals. Maybe we've bought a little bit into the hustle go-getter mentality. If I just push through, I can do it. And yet we know that deep down we know there's this other way, but it's really,
Hmm.
really hard to prioritize ourselves. And I
Yes.
think it's hard for people to jump into a program like this because it's all about permission to be all of you and discover you.
Hmm.
So what helped you take that leap when there was a little bit of that kind of similar fear and uncertainty? What was the
I,
final push?
I mean, I already knew that like I felt very comfortable with you.
Mhm.
So that was very helpful for me.
Yeah.
Um, and I, I don't, it was just like a very loud voice in my head that was
Mhm.
like, just do this. And, of course, alongside of that voice was like, well, you don't want to do that. You don't have time. Like
Yep.
maybe there's another way that you can,
Yep.
do that without actually doing it.
Mhm.
And my whole life has been like a series of relationships in coaching. I'm a strength athlete as well outside of the
Mhm.
woods, and I need accountability. And
Yeah.
so I knew that this group, if not only from you, like the other women, the other people in the group would also hold me accountable. I
Yeah.
also knew that I needed to expand my community outside of like this teeny tiny rural town in Maine where there
Mhm.
are like our town has like 1,000 people in it. So I knew that I needed to expand somehow. I didn't know what that was going to look like or feel like or, transpire into, what it was going to take shape down the road. But I just had this like feeling I just could not shake. And I think I waited till like the very last minute to sign up.
Like the very
That's very,
last minute.
yeah,
And I was like,
that's
whoa, Kate's
very
here.
on brand for me
Yeah.
personally. Um, yeah, and I'm so glad that I did. I'm very glad that I did.
So
Yeah.
just before we go any further, just shed for us a little bit of light, because I bet there's people listening live or who will watch later who probably were experiencing things that you were experiencing. But what were some of the things, if you could think back to before the program, that you were experiencing in your life, in your business, that you were struggling with?
What comes to mind immediately is I just felt so much
Mm.
pressure. And I don't know where it was actually coming from, probably just myself, self imposed, but
Sure.
to do more in
Mm.
less time. I felt pressure to condense time. I felt rushed to get the things done that I wanted to see happen in the world done. And I felt like I just wasn't moving fast enough. I felt like I wasn't producing enough.
Yeah.
Um, and just like overall, like I just felt like I was hustling, I was working my ass off, and I wasn't seeing, like I was seeing, the fruit of it in some like glimmers, but I wasn't feeling it inside. I was just like
Mm.
numb, and I was very like transactional with my work. I was like, okay, this is the thing that has to get done. I have to like, I was obsessed with lists. I still really love lists,
Yeah,
but I
lists
have like
are great. We love
a,
lists.
a little bit of a different relationship with them now than I did a year ago. But
Yeah.
um, yeah, I felt really pressured to just like perform and do and do and do and produce, and everything had to happen on like an astronomically fast timeline.
Mm.
And I felt rushed all the time, and it was just this wasn't great. And it was
Yeah.
exhausting for sure.
Yeah. Okay, so you jump into Permission to Be summer of 2024. It was our second cohort, my second cohort in the program. What was the program like for you? Or were there any kind of moments where you noticed a shift or yeah, what can you walk us through that experience a little?
Yeah. I mean, at first I thought like, oh, this will be fine. Like, I'm a preschool teacher. I know how to play. I know how to be like happy and joyful. Like, was like, this shouldn't be a problem. And I think one of the very first exercises was like defining play for us. And I was just like, I had no idea. Like, it was like someone, like, my brain became an etch a sketch and I had nothing. Like, someone had just shaken it up and I had nothing.
Wow.
Um, and it was very alarming, but also very illuminating, to the fact that I put my business before myself for so long that
Yeah.
ultimately I forgot about myself, and I didn't really know Ade, the way that I really deserve to be known, to myself. So
Mhm.
um, that exercise was really, really hard. And I ignored it for as long as I possibly could. And then,
Also
played
very
around
common in the
with the
program.
idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just kind of pushed it to the side, like, oh, I'm just so busy. I have so much going on. But I knew I was just avoiding it because I was uncomfortable and it was
Sure.
hard and challenging. But
Yeah.
yeah, that was like I guess that was like an aha moment. I think that was the beginning of me understanding that there was a piece of me that is very important, that was kind of left behind, in
Yeah.
that hustle mindset, and like that achievement focused mindset.
Yeah. So what would you say it was your biggest? takeaways post program or from the program? You and I work together now one on one. We started working together one on one like a month or two after the program wrapped up.
Hmm.
What has been kind of your transformation since the program?
Well, so much has happened.
A lot has happened.
Um, yeah, I mean, a couple of things while, I mean, while we were in that program and then shortly after through, I mean, this is maybe more on like the one-on-one, but I started
Yeah.
getting really clear on boundaries with
Mhm.
my business. And I was working at the kitchen table, and like our house is very open, so like my office was like in the living room.
Yeah.
um, and so I really pushed to create a space for myself away from the main house,
Mhm.
to work, and also like work on releasing all of that like productivity mindset at school,
Mm.
and lean into, and this is something that I teach in trainings and coach people on, like to play more and to speak less when
Yeah.
facilitating, space with children. And I wasn't necessarily practicing that myself. And so I really leaned hard on that and kind of doubled down. And I began to be reminded about, the types of play that I really liked to do. And I think over the last 6 months or so, like I mean, I went to the Joy Retreat, and
Mhm.
that's when I really realized, like, yeah, like, okay, little aid and future aid, like they've got my back,
Right.
and they've got my best interest in mind. And I had to work really hard to bring creativity back into the fold,
Yeah.
because I had masked creativity as productivity and like making Canva templates and making freebies online for email subscribers. And creativity is writing a newsletter, and that's not actually what I needed to be doing.
Right.
And so it has taken me a very long time to unravel that. But I would say that is the biggest takeaway. Even last night, I brought home a big piece of paper that I had been working on at school, and I had it on the kitchen table. And my partner was like, "Oh, what's up, Picasso?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, I'm keeping a promise to myself and to Cait that
Yeah.
I'm going to create weekly."
Yeah.
And so, I've, you know, that's it's a big piece of who I am, and I let my work um, mute that for a very, very
Yeah.
long time. And what's been very beautiful about that is that I have not just closed it off away from my time with kids in the classroom. I've let them see that part of me.
Yeah.
And it's been really beautiful to see how that inspires them, and impacts them as well. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of power there to remembering, who you are and what lights you up, and bringing that to everything you do. And
I,
I
I
don't think I
love
would have found that without that.
I love that lens of, for you it's creativity, for others it might be something different, although I think we all need some creativity time prioritize our lives. But that idea that there was something that was so essential to you and your core and who you are and what you need, that you were
Hmm.
just shoving aside and kind of covering and masking in different ways. And through this, you found that. And you won't say this out loud, but I'll say it, because right alongside when the retreat was happening and the work that we did together one on one, some major shifts occurred intentionally in your business because of all this work you had been doing. And now we're looking at least triple revenue for the fall enrollment compared to what it was this year. Some like really, really big changes and celebrations.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think part of the work that came out of being in permission to be is understanding that the way that we think things are supposed to take
Mhm.
shape, and what the vision we might have, not is like we can still get there, but not necessarily with the directions that we have in our mind. And I've had to take different, you know, what is that called when you get like rerouted? A detour. I've taken like
Detours.
many detours to
Yeah.
get like to the ultimate vision for my program, which is, enrolling children.
Yeah.
And it's exactly the same as it would have been, but
Mhm.
I've had to take a different approach. I've had to really wrestle with like change. Change is very hard. I'm a creature of
Yeah.
habit. Um, and really wrestle with the idea of like it can take the same shape with a different set of instructions or directions. And that like sounds very simple, but it was very, very, very hard. But now that I've done it and I felt like success, and
Yeah.
I've collected
Evidence.
evidence, that I'm, you know, I now know like my central nervous system is like, oh, okay, like this
We can
is
do
safe, this is
this. We can
okay.
do this.
Um, and collecting evidence has also like shifted my mindset to be able and my vision to see evidence like everywhere.
Everywhere.
Kind of like how once you see that play is learning, like you can't unsee it, right? It's the same thing.
Yeah.
um so yeah,
Yeah.
it's been huge for sure.
Love that. So, as we kind of wrap up here, is there anything you would share or advice you would give to anyone considering permission to be or getting support in their life and leadership and business?
Yeah, I mean, if it's even crossed your mind for 10 seconds or less that maybe this is something for you, and then you've immediately shut it down with lots of different reasons why you shouldn't do it, I think you should go in the opposite direction and just sign up. Because, you know, you have a very beautiful and natural way of providing space for people to move through hard things, hard ideas, hard feelings, but also like see the light at the end of the tunnel and not be overwhelmed or lonely. And like you're doubly not as lonely, right? It's not just you and Cait, it's going to be you and other people in the group as well. And even though it's just virtual, just like there is some beautiful connections that you're
Oh,
going to be
yeah.
surprised that you made. I felt like, oh no, I'm not going to know anything about these people. I'm not going to have anything in common with them. And then I don't know how many months later we met in person at the retreat, and it was like we knew each other our whole lives. So,
Yeah.
um, I would say absolutely, if it's just crossed your mind and then you've talked yourself out of it, that's the invitation to just sign up and do it.
I love that. I agree,
Of
but
course.
I like it coming from you. I agree. Second that statement. Oh, my dear, thank you so much for taking the time to come on and chat with us. And it was great to see a couple people on, and I know we'll get a lot of people watching the recording. So, um, follow Ade on her Instagram if you don't already. Nature Play All Day. She is magical and just does a beautiful job creating space, including virtual space. And I encourage you to just check her out and follow along with what she's up to because there's some big things coming.
Yes.
All right, my dear.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See ya.